Hello there. I'm with Evan Lamont from TLG Marketing today, and Evan is going to tell you about TLG, but I'll let you know TLG is a digital marketing agency that works with B2B and professional service businesses. Evan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Evan, tell us a little bit about what TLG Marketing is then.
Well, TLG Marketing's been a lot of things over the years, but as we've transitioned over the last 13 years in business, what we focus on now is professional service and B2B businesses and providing solutions to the unique challenges or issues that the business has. Maybe not so necessarily in the marketing space. It can also be dealing with reputation matters or advertising or application or functionality issues. But what we try to do is to solve business issues through digital marketing and technology.
That's great. Can you give us an example of what a typical client, how you solved a problem for a typical client?
Of course. So when it comes to solving a particular issue, they can range all over the board. So our clients are in the B2B and professional service space, and so what it means is that they're usually dealing with clients that have unique challenges inside of a niche market or a niche space.
For example?
Like in the professional services space, that might be attorneys that practice elder abuse or nursing home abuse litigation.
Okay.
And so in that case, we're finding a way to target a very specific audience. But in that case, you're going to be dealing with an audience that has not only a issue and a need for a professional service, but they're dealing with a very emotional situation or a particular type of trauma. So in that case, it's not just a matter of running the advertisements to be able to engage them and then funnel them into a lead. It is trying to figure out the best way to communicate with that individual in a personable manner. What sort of images we need to be able to show to display a confidence that it's not just a cut and dry law firm, that the firm is actually there to support your needs and that they specialize in that area.
So Evan, what really sets you and your agency apart from all the other agencies that are out there today?
It's a great question. It's actually one that I've really struggled to answer over the years. I don't have all the answers for that, but what I found is that what separates TLG from some of these other companies out there is not only my staff's ability to interface with a specific problem, but really my time and my consultative experience to step in and find a solution to that matter, no matter really what it takes.
So tell us a little bit about you and your background then. You went to school for marketing and your family was in publishing, right? But tell us a little bit about that background.
So I was fortunate enough to have a computer put in front of me at a very young age and just found it fascinating. That in combination with growing up in elementary school and middle school in the age of AOL. Early on in instant messaging, working in AOL chat rooms.
You've got mail.
Precisely. Discovering that there is a bigger world out there and that your computer is the terminal and the access to it. And to have the unlimited amount of time from a summer vacation to be able to pour into it, and a household that didn't receive a lot of phone calls, so we could keep that dial-up internet going all day long. So I was really fortunate in that standpoint to have access to technology to be, and also when I became an entrepreneur and started my company, around the same time where digital marketing became a thing. We all take Google and Facebook and the types of advertising platforms that TLG Marketing works on for granted. It hasn't been around for all that long.
Right.
And even in my early days of pitching that sort of business, I got, that's how you talk to the kids, but what we really need is, print advertising and a good radio campaign. And so it's great to be in a time now, once again, that we kind of take for granted, where it is mainstream and people look at platforms like Google and Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, email marketing, everything that happens on digital as the mainstream and as the foremost way that businesses should advertise. So in a way, there's certainly some luck to it, being born at the right time, having access to some of the right tools. But marketing certainly wasn't my background. My background was in PR coming out of school.
Oh.
I was a graduate of a school up in Washington State called Whitman College, a small liberal arts school. but I did my master's work here at Long Beach State in their sport management division. I envisioned myself becoming a sport agent.
So how did you go about from being a sport agent or wanting to be a sport agent to then running and starting your marketing firm?
This is where we can thank a startup baseball league called the Golden Baseball League that was founded in 2003 and had a very short, maybe 3 or 4 year reign. I served as the director of public relations for the Long Beach Armada, which played here in town at Blair Field, and got some really good connections from that standpoint, working incredible hours. Minor league baseball is a grind.
All right.
You have a 7 or 8 game homestand combined with office hours and all that.
Not just for the players, but for the staff also.
Yeah, absolutely. But a really fun summer, and it helped me to develop a mentality when it came to work that it's not about how much time you put into it, it's about getting the job done.
The results.
The results done. And oftentimes that means way more hours than less in order to achieve that. After a year with that team, I actually went to work for a boutique PR agency here in town. Cut my teeth with them for about 9 months before I realized that I think I can do this by myself.
Just 9 months it took you to realize that?
Well, not just realizing what should be done in an agency, but what shouldn't be done too.
Okay.
And I think that's really important. You can learn as much about how to manage from a bad manager as you can from a good manager.
Tell us more about that. Tell us what you learned. Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, to some degree, I feel like I got a peek behind the curtain or a crash course in how to run a small business and how to run a PR agency at that time. Because since it was small, I was wearing many hats. I was writing the press releases. I was pitching out. I was staffing events. I was talking with clientele. And it was really, like I said, a crash course in not just being a public relations specialist, but how to manage and run a small business. I felt that, and I still keep in touch with the owner of that agency to this day. But when I left that company, I had at least the confidence to know I can do this. Good.
So then you left the company, you started your own, you had 1 or 2 clients to begin with, and then grew from there. And when was that? Tell us about that journey.
So that was in 2006, and I was 25 years old, and I just felt that I knew enough to get off the ground, but I didn't quite know enough to establish a really successful business at that stage. And what I found was we started to pick up clients in the PR space. I had a pretty good background in graphic design. At that time, my brother came on board with the agency, and we were starting to really get some momentum. And then the recession hit. And in a very short period of time, we lost some of our anchor clients.
Oh boy.
We lost a significant amount of our revenue. And what we found was that PR was very easy for companies to let go. PR at that time was very difficult to determine return on investment on. And it's very much an ego-driven form of marketing. At that time, people wanted to see themselves in the magazines and the newspapers and on TV. And it was very difficult to attribute any sort of business revenue to that.
Hard metrics to say that because you saw this many views of your magazine, that you received.
You didn't even
revenue.
Know the views.
Yeah,
it's just you're in the March edition.
Yeah. And so they dropped you guys out then, the PR, and then did you reinvent the firm then after that, or what happened? How did you morph into where you are now?
Well, it's a good question, because as much as we started losing accounts, we were losing accounts for that service, but as almost an add-on, we were providing website services, and at the time, a burgeoning space called Google AdWords. And we were getting pretty good at it. We had a number of accounts, and I was fortunate enough to attend an event actually put on by KABC at a restaurant in downtown Long Beach. And I'll never forget this, because when I was trying to decide whether I was going to attend the event or not, I was waiting outside my car, dressed up in a suit, ready to go to it. And I really thought maybe I should just go back upstairs and, you don't need to do this. But I decided to do it. It was on a Friday afternoon, and I went out to the event. I met a couple quality people there that I still keep in touch with. And as I was leaving the event, the fishbowl that you throw your business card into, they called out my name on a loudspeaker.
Okay.
And I won a $10,000 advertising program through KABC.
Wow.
as a small business, I thought that was just an incredible opportunity. I had no idea what I was going to do with it. And kind of before I knew it, 2 other companies had reached out to me and said, what if we just bought that off of you?
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, that's great, but what if, in addition to buying it off of me, you let me come work for you?
Fantastic.
And I acquired 2 clients that day. I met some great individuals that day, and that event to this day still sticks in my mind as one of the foundational elements of my business, and something that helped us transform from, at the time, a PR agency into, really at that time, it was a web services company.
Right.
Little did I know that digital marketing was going to be on this upswing that we're still experiencing today.
So you were at the beginning of that wave, that swell that was out there, and stayed on your board and have been riding that wave ever since then.
Timing is everything.
Timing is everything. That's great. Can you tell us a little bit more about, so that was in 2010 or so, I guess, about that time?
Yeah, that would have been maybe actually 2008. That was right during the heart of the recession, so 2008. After that, what we decided to do once we had lost so much revenue and we had a harder time selling digital services, especially to small and medium-sized businesses, is we took on a philosophy of just saying yes. And we took on projects in all kinds of facets, from SEO to pay-per-click, website development, a variety of digital-based services, things like graphic design as well, and Illustrator and Photoshop and photo editing, just to see what direction the company would kind of head in. Rather than a strategic decision, we just kind of accepted projects and brought on clients. And it wasn't until maybe around 2010 or 2011 that we really started to build some strategy into the types of clients that we started to acquire.
Fantastic. That's great. Evan, can you tell us, as someone who started your company at such a young age, who did you turn to for advice and counsel and as your mentors along the way?
Well, looking back on it now, I was definitely hard-headed, and I've kind of believed, I knew I didn't know everything. I knew a lot of people. I knew most of the people I was talking to. They didn't know anything either. So
I figured that out, huh?
I'm not sure if that's the greatest philosophy to try to grow a business, but
present company excluded, right?
Of course, sir. But what I found was that even if someone doesn't have all the answers, they may have some. And I was fortunate enough to not only have some good mentors, including my father, who was instrumental not only in me becoming the person I am, but in helping to open doors and be a voice of reason and implement some sound business practices. But one of the other real advantages of being the CEO and being an agency man and a client man was that I developed really good rapport and relationships with my clients. And some of my earliest clients wound up not only becoming terrific clients that are still with us today, but mentors in my business. They took me under their wing. They wanted to see me succeed. And they would tell it to me straight when either the services we were providing weren't on par with what they were accepting or what they needed done, and also some advice on where they thought the future was for my own company. And without that advice, I guarantee I wouldn't be where I am today. You never know when one particular conversation or relationship is going to change your life, and I feel like I had many of those.
That's great. That's great. We put yourself in the right place and open enough to realize that.
Right.
Evan, talk a little bit about automation. I mean, you've seen so much automation happening in your industry, in your career. Where is automation going, and how will that affect the future of your industry?
It's I take it from a business perspective that it can only lead to good things. I think there's a lot of fear out there of the unknown. But from what I've seen with automation is that automation benefits businesses like ours because it eliminates some of the grunt work or the basic work and development that needs to be done, and helps to free up more creative thinking. And the way I see AI implementing in some of the things we're doing, whether it's website or application building, maybe even management of online advertising campaigns, which is probably what's being disrupted the most right now through automation, is that there still needs to be the individual that can communicate it to the client and can take the client's needs and very complex issues and solve them. So I'm really, as the figurehead and CEO of TLG Marketing, really embracing automation from where we can in order to stay lean and scale the creative services that we offer and the consultative services that we offer without really affecting the actual work that we're doing.
So really explaining the technology and explaining the automation and understanding what it can do and working with your clients and figuring out the needs that they have and then applying that automation or those creative services to what their needs are.
That's precisely it. People, you don't know what you don't know, and clients are often experts in their own industry, but when it comes to marketing their business, they're certainly, they can be a real asset from like the qualitative side of it, but being able to present them with the right technologies and the right platforms so that they can get their message out to the correct audience is paramount.
I bet it is. Evan, what about what is out there in digital marketing space that potential clients don't know about or should know about?
For years, we've been really pushing, and we've been very bullish on a service called retargeting or remarketing, and we're one of the first agencies to be able to have access through that when it was originally a Google beta tool, and ever since then we've really tried to keep our finger on the pulse of what's next. And the service that winds up fitting really well with our clientele right now is what's called person-based marketing, and it takes the same sort of audience targeting that you'd have with retargeting or remarketing, but instead of building it based on a previous visit or action that a visitor has taken, it lets the business be proactive in the selection of the people they want to target.
Right, you were telling me that. This is fascinating. Yeah, tell me more about that. I love this.
So, while as much as we utilize the platforms, I don't have a complete understanding of exactly how it works, but I can describe some examples of how we're using it and the types of businesses that it can be really successful for.
Okay.
So when you think of retargeting or remarketing, a visitor comes to your website, they leave without taking an action that you want, and in turn, they're going to be followed with advertisements for a select period of time, 30 days, 60 days, 2 years, whatever it may be. And that often works very well in professional services and B2B, where there are longer lead cycles and oftentimes multiple decision makers.
So if I go to a Ritz-Carlton website because I'm researching a trip to Hawaii and I don't do anything and I leave the website, then all of a sudden the next day or weeks later I'll see a Ritz-Carlton ad pop up on my screen when I'm searching for something else. Is that what you're referring to?
That's correct. That's the process of it, with likely a higher frequency of ads for the first couple days because you just showed interest.
Yeah.
And then you're being segmented into maybe a longer tail audience where they're going to just show you maybe a couple ads over the next few weeks, and then maybe just some of their latest promos and specials to try and entice you back if you haven't made that decision.
So tell us about what this new marketing is as opposed to what I just described.
So how it works is, instead of the Ritz-Carlton requiring you to go to their website first on that action, the Ritz-Carlton would have the opportunity to go out to you proactively and opt you into a campaign like that.
How would they know me? How would they find me?
So individuals have a unique IP address dedicated to their desktop computers or their laptops, whether it's at their office or their home. And how person-based marketing works is it does what's called a reverse IP lookup. So utilizing the same sort of platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook and Google's display network and even some of the native networks that are out there, when an individual that is in person-based marketing, and let's say John Smith from Acme Corps, instead of trying to get Mr. Smith to visit your website initially, you can opt in that individual, so when they log on to their social media networks, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn, we know their IP address and can serve advertisements directly to that IP.
I see. So if I'm running a valve manufacturing company and I know the buyer at Boeing that is going to be buying valves, I could say I want John Smith as the buyer at Boeing. He's going to buy valves. So you can target when John Smith opens up his laptop and starts seeing ads from my valve company?
That's correct.
Wow.
And the real advantage of it is you might not be able to get John Smith's, you might not be able to get the time of day from him.
Right.
He's
so busy, he doesn't want to call me back.
Exactly. And you may be a smaller operation that has a hard time competing with a Lockheed Martin or something like that. But what you can do is, by opting them in through person-based marketing, you can really start to build that top of mind awareness. And best of all, unlike retargeting or remarketing, where the audience is trackable but almost anonymous. You're tracking them based on an ID or a cookie. With person-based marketing, as soon as an individual clicks on an ad from that IP address, it was them that clicked. So you're sent an email immediately that says, John Smith
just replied to this.
And isn't it a coincidence that John Smith just got a LinkedIn invitation or a direct message from your company just wanting to introduce yourself?
Exactly. So you're hitting him while he's looking at you, you're cutting back to him, and he doesn't know what's going on.
That's correct. So
wow.
It's
spooky.
It's been, spooky's the right way,
yeah.
is one word to describe it. But it hasn't been around for too long, and we're finding it is a great fit for our B2B clients just because you spend all this money attending trade shows or trying to buy audience lists and send out emails, when oftentimes in some of our really niche industries, there's only 100 decision makers in the US or in the world that can actually go ahead and buy your products or be the one that can be your next big client.
Right.
So we reach out to them directly. It's just about marketing a little bit smarter.
That's great, Evan. That's fascinating. And a big part of our audience are business owners, and some of them are young, some have started their companies when they've been 25 years old, and some have been in business for a while. Talk a little bit about the challenges or a challenge that you've faced and how you've overcome it.
Well, there's a lot of numerous challenges. You know, if you ever want to face every challenge in the world, start a business, because you're bound to face them from a personnel standpoint or from a revenue standpoint, client standpoint. I would say one of the biggest challenges would actually just be, the confidence to know that what you're doing is the right thing. And I would second guess myself very often early on, figuring that there's got to be someone else out there who's bigger and better, and I don't stand a chance, whether I'm pursuing a particular account or not. And what I started to realize is that I needed to have faith in myself as a professional and in the work that we're doing, and to really strive forward with that. And as a result of it, essentially believing in myself and believing in our work and knowing that what we do is quality, even if we do get negative feedback here and there, or a project doesn't necessarily go our way, to kind of keep pushing forward with it. And since that time that I started having a lot more faith and believing in myself and the company more, we've been able to make better decisions and take action on those decisions instead of being indecisive.
Fantastic. So really stick to it. Believe in what you're doing, stick with it.
That's exactly it. I mean, there's no one answer to solve business solutions. Oftentimes, what I like to do is kind of get a small group of the staff together and collaborate on how we're going to tackle a particular challenge, because no two business issues are ever the same.
Right.
Especially when it comes to even companies in the same industry, they may be facing similar challenges, but they aren't the same. And knowing that it's better to take an action, and especially with the digital standpoint, test and see if it's working or not, and if not, make a revision and go back because of the amount of data that you can collect. That's better than trying to come up with the perfect solution the first time.
Just get out there and start doing it, start testing, and then tweaking.
Yep, very, very much so. In some cases, it's never fun to fail, but if you fail once or twice and then you succeed, it's better than not succeeding at all.
Perfect. Well said. Evan, if anyone wants to get a hold of you who's listening to this right now, what's the best way to get a hold of you and reach you?
Well, I try to make my calendar pretty open and available to anyone that's interested in chatting with me about business. You can head out to our website and go to tlgmarketing.com/schedule.
tlgmarketing.com/schedule.
That's correct.
And they'll find a way to reach out to you on there?
You can access to my personal calendar. You can book a 15 or 30-minute session directly on my calendar, set up a Zoom meeting anywhere in the world.
Great. Evan, it's been great having you on the show. Thanks so much for being part of this and telling your company story.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you. Hey, thanks for listening to My Company Story. We have new episodes coming out every week, so please subscribe if you like this. And if you'd like to hear previous episodes, you can go to mycompanystory.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also, if you or someone you know would be interested in coming on the show, please email me at don@burge.com. Thanks for listening.